have asked questions for you, sir. I'm looking forward, and I'm just waiting
Man,
for the
praise be to Allah.
notification.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. I'm getting a notification, and we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record, the People's Podcast. We have a great guest this evening, a man who is admired and honored by many of us, but especially this is very personal to me for my time serving with the drill team in Atlanta. We just always admired you, brother Captain, for your kindness and your man, your just demeanor, everything about you, sir. We admire you and look up to you. So first of all, assalamu alaikum, brother Captain.
Alaikum salam. Eid Mubarak, sir, to you and the family and your
Ed
listening
Kareem.
audience.
Yes, sir, Ed Kareem. And my sister Miriam says assalamu alaikum. Wonderful.
Alaikum
Well, brother Captain, let's get straight into it. When did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, sir?
brother, it was that historic first men's only meeting at the 369 Armory in New York City. Prior to that was January 1994, but in December 1993, the minister came and spoke at the Jacob Javits Center, and the media had done such a job on the minister, not knowing anything about the nation, the minister, or what the FOR anything was. I heard about it in the news, but there was conversation at the location where I was working at, but I was very intimidated. I said, I'm not going to listen to a person who was the promoter of hate and, go against everything that I've been taught of as a young child. So I stayed away. But, sufficely, Brother Joshua, a few weeks later, the VHS tape was circulating on my job. And, that was a conversation.
Yes,
so it was a group of us used to have conversation on a daily basis. And every person who saw the video, they came back and was just so inspired. So the person who owns the videotape, I said, you know what? I said, Arthur, man, I got to get this videotape, so I could view it. So I got it on a Friday, Brother Joshua. I was working a 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. I may have gotten a little bit after 11 o'clock. And I was just so anxious. I couldn't wait to just see why so many people were so inspired. I put that videotape in, Brother Joshua, and as Allah is my witness, everything that I've read, been taught as a child, I grew up in a church setting, scriptures, nationalist event, Marcus Garvey, everything just kind of just came, all the dots were connected. Over that weekend, I think, I don't even know if I went outside. I know I viewed the videotape a few more times, and that's where my journey started in terms of knowledge, introduction to the minister. So I went back to work, and Inspire was able to now put a little bit more quality discussion to the conversation, because now I had the experience of just seeing the videotape for myself. So the minister had assured that he was going to come back and speak to men only in New York City. Didn't state where the location was, but it was promoted, and he came. The date came, and I went. And one of the odd thing, Brother Josh, none of those individuals on my job actually went to the event. I was the only one who saw the video, went that night. So when I came back the next day, I was a little disappointed in my co-workers, because I was like, they were the one who introduced me to this body of knowledge, and I was the only person that went. Brother Josh, the place was packed. The Armory seating capacity was about 8,500. It was way over. They may have had over 10,000 men on the inside. The line to get inside may have taken maybe about an hour before I got inside.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where the 369 Armory is located is Upper Harlem. It runs the line ran from Manhattan across a bridge into the Bronx.
Yes,
That's
sir.
how
Yes,
many
sir.
people, that's how many black men came out to hear the minister. And as we said, the rest was history, to
Praise be
speak.
to God. Yes, sir. And thank you very much, Brother Captain, for your honesty and your transparency. Sister Teresa Pearl, Sister Greetings, Blake Islam, Sister Teresa Pearl, my sister Naima, Sister
Wow.
Curtisa, Brother Devon Green, says Assalamu alaikum, and thank you all for watching. My next question for you, Brother Captain, is how did your parents feel about you accepting the teachings?
Brother Josh, at that point, my mother had three of us, my older sister and my younger son, brother. He got killed. So I kind of isolated myself a little, going through that process. I socialized, but not too heavily. My mom was very close. I know she saw some changes. And we didn't have a discussion, Brother Joshua,
Yes,
but
sir.
in my maturity, just looking back, I was a zealous. When you came in at that time and you got a shot or a dose of Islam in your vein, I wasn't one of those individuals who took baby step coming in. I came and embraced it and took everything on face value. Mom, I don't even think I've had this conversation with my mother, but in my living room, she had one of those pictures. It was a nice, beautiful picture with the 12 disciples, but from the Michelangelo painting. Brother Joshua, I took that picture and I threw it in a garbage can. I don't recall Mom even asking why or what happened to the painting. I just knew, just looking back, that was the type of radical thinking, it did not represent truth. It was an image that had reflect so much hurt, pain, and suffering for our people. So once I got equated with the knowledge, I didn't want to see anything that was a semblance of, as a reminder. But Mom, I would say, back then she saw the changes, probably didn't know much about what I was involved, but she knew it was positive. She knew it was positive, and she see me moving in the right direction. And I would say today, she's my number one cheerleader.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Some sister Clarion says, "Assalamu alaikum from Kingston, Jamaica." Okay. My next question is: when you came in, Brother Captain, who trained you, and how did you get into the military, and how did you become the captain?
Can I just pivot back a little?
Yes, sir.
Yes. At the men's only meeting, the minister, again, I didn't know anything about a mosque, study group, or whether it was an organized body of men or a place where I could go. So the minister invited us to manhood training. Manhood training was every Saturday in Brooklyn where I resided. It was at 53 Flatbush Avenue, which is When Worlds Collide. It was the same space that was shared by our GM, our Assistant Supreme, Brother Hafeez. So that was their school, the dojo. And subsequently, it was also where Muhammad Mosque number 7C used to meet. So, as we going through the discipline with the manhood training, I felt empowered. There was no proselytizing in terms of now fishing us in. We was talking about, we did drills, we did martial arts, talk about doing for self. So there was a group of us within that set that I got very close to. And, we was open up a business account. First group of brothers, we decided to do some level of doing for self. I had a lot of experience. It was a blessing. But as I kept coming, I'm looking at these men that I've never seen nowhere before. The discipline, the brightness in their face, just the sharpness, the sternness. So I was attracted to just the decorum and the discipline of the FOI. So I made a transition from manhood training and just starting to be more around the brothers, I ran into a little situation, and I needed to do some community service. So one Saturday, I approached Brother Kevin, then our, student minister who passed, Brother Abdul Hafeez, who was Brother Kevin. Then I asked him if it was possible if I could do some community service. He said, absolutely, you could do the community service here at the facility, and I have my secretary draft you up a letter. So I used to come to the building at about 10 a.m. in the morning. It was a tool. They had the upstairs where they had the mosque meeting, and not the downstairs was more so was office spaces and where they did most of the martial arts training.
Yes, sir.
I came in, Brother Josh, around 10 a.m. in the morning. I had to clean, mop, set up the chairs. And so Brother Kevin said, brother, now that you finished, why don't you come back and join the meeting at 2 p.m. At that time, we used to meet at 2 p.m. And I came in, very impressed with brother, what I heard. And that started my journey right there in 53 Flatbush Avenue when worlds collide.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And Walaikum Salam, Sajadeh gives you the greetings. Of course, she always comes on when all of the people from New York come on, the believers. What was it like for you first meeting the Most Honorable Mr. Farrakhan?
You asked me a question and I kind of pivot. I don't want to. You said who was, the person who, there was so many trained.
Yes, sir.
It was an older brother who served prior to 1975. He was a business owner, very stickler and doing for self. He was a father figure, Brother Robert Five. He's still alive. I think he moved out of New York City. Pray to Allah, he's doing well, him and his family. I have to name a few that were so instrumental.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother David 11. He was the first brother who acquainted me with the Muslim diet. I was blessed to invite it to his home to have bean soup on toast for the first time. Had that famous white fish, brown rice, and vegetables. So I came in with men not only who were strong, they showed the love and the affection and support as a new Muslim coming in that I've never been acquainted with before. We had brothers, Brother Henrik, Brother Derek, who's now Brother Delil, Brother David, Brother Arthur. There were just so many that was very instrumental, at that time. Subsequently, when I came in, Brother Josh, I was working so hard. The student first lieutenant, the first lieutenant at the time made me a lieutenant just a few months in. Didn't have any experience, but I was a very hard-working brother. For some reason, he got rotated out, and brother who you interviewed, Brother Robert Seven, he came in and he was the first lieutenant. And he pulled me to the side and said, brother, I'm gonna remove you from that position because you just came in, you're young, you could use some more experience. And I, just fall back into the ranks and just keep soldiering. On a Wednesday night, I came to the mosque. Our Wednesday night, Brother Joshua, at 966 Flatbush, Fulton Street, the Fourth Green Senior Citizen Center was almost like a Sunday. Was packed. You had packed with believers and lost found. So there was a shortage in the coverage for Brother Kevin's security, and brother asked me to stand post. I guess he saw my imposing look, my Shaka Zulu features.
Yes, sir.
By Allah's permission, he assigned me to minister security, and I served with some very strong, steadfast brothers who was committed. Brother Walter Five, Brother Walter, Brother Irvin, Brother Brandon, and I became part of that security team. So, and I started working closely with Brother Hafeez at that time.
Praise be to Allah. And Walaikum Salam to Veronica, and she extends her greetings to you as well, Brother Captain. What was it like for you when you got to meet the Most Honorable Mr. Farrakhan?
Brother Josh, unlike today, when I came in 94, there were so many layers to even be in the same room with the minister or be in an office or post. You had to work your way up to be blessed to be in a company. So I can't recall being in close proximity until years later when I transitioned to now serving in the capacity as a captain. You know, there was just layers of security, and you had to pay dues. You know, the believers today are so blessed, Brother Joshua, to, you know, get a picture, you know, get a handshake. You know, that took years. I recall my first close, intimate setting was in 2000 when there was changes in the city, and I was appointed to be interim captain for 90 days over New York City. We came back after the installation, which I understood for the first time, a group of laborers were sworn in to the post on position. So after the sworn in was done at the mosque, we were invited to go and meet with the minister at his hotel room. You know, I sat in that close proximity. It seems like I was there for hours, you know, just being mesmerized by the minister going over what it is to be a good laborer, his expectation. And, you know, that was my first encounter, Brother Josh.
Yes, sir. Now, can you let us, and thank you all, thank you first, Brother Captain, and I want to make sure I stress on behalf of myself and my family that we thank your family for their sacrifice as well, for we know that it is the sacrifice of the family to have a husband and a father to serve in laboring positions. So we thank you for that and thank them for that as well. How was it being sworn in? I've only seen it one time, and that was on video, so I never seen it in person. How was it to be sworn in, and what was explained to us?
If you have the video, Brother Joshua, I've never seen or heard of anyone spoke about the video. You know, it was ironic. I'm going to pivot a little, Brother Josh, just to give you, your family, your listening audience, a little insight into what led up to.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm serving with brother Kevin. Then I don't think his name was Brother Hafeez as of yet. I was his first lieutenant in Brooklyn, and Brother Benjamin was the regional minister. Brother Majid was the regional captain. There was some issues with the labor in the city. The minister that came in, I can't recall whether he came in to deal with whether it was a speaking engagement or he came in to deal with the issues of the labor. But sufficely to say, after a series of meetings, word was shared with myself and the staff in Brooklyn that the minister was so disappointed, he was about to remove the sign from the building, close the building, and leave the city. And, you know, I've been in since 1994, it's now 2000, 6 years in, but I've never heard of a city being closed. So, you know, we like what we gonna do? If we don't have a building, we don't have a mosque, how are we gonna function? What does this mean? So you could imagine now the anxiety and all the stress that just, you know, trying to put your mind somewhere where, what does this mean? Suffice it to say, Brother Majid, may Allah, I thank Allah for him much. He knew that the issues and the concern with the laborers over the city, the regional laborers, did not reflect Mosque number 7C and the work that we were doing in Brooklyn.
Okay.
So I think he spoke with your father and shared with your father that we should be considered before just you know, somebody have to let the minister know to look at Brooklyn, look at the work and those group of believers, what they have been doing. So your father, I don't know if he went himself or he sent somebody over to first look at the building, the cleanliness of the building, the upkeep. I heard with past inspection, and word was shared back with the minister. And, you know, the next day, the minister said, you know, wanted to look at a few more things. There was an emergency meeting call. So again, unbeknown, we still anticipating that we don't know which way, what decision the minister gonna make relative to closing down New York City and going back to Chicago. So I'm on outside post, Brother Joshua, and I got tapped and they asked me to step inside the mosque. It was our general counsel, Brother Arif, and I think it was our supreme captain, Brother Mustafa.
Okay.
And they asked me if I would serve as the interim captain for 90 days until they come back. And, I said, yes, sir. And, I stepped back out. Against they had to go through that same process with all the laborers. And I guess once they got everyone affirmed, then we was brought up in front of the believers to be sworn in. But keep in mind now, Brother Joshua, they said 90 days. It's been 20 years later. So
hey, praise be to Allah.
Much for the experience.
Beautiful. Okay. Yes, sir. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. And thank you very much, Brother Captain, for your transparency as well.
Yeah.
In your tenure in the nation, especially in New York, the intense, it's just so much action and movement in the nation and outside of the nation in the city. Have you ever been faced with fear? And if so, how did you overcome the fear?
Tough one. I will say I came out of Brooklyn, 7C. What I would say, I came into a blueprint and a tradition of service. Number one, our student minister fed us a consistent diet of the Savior, the Christ, and the minister.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
He was so grounded. He was such a balanced minister. He could prove a point in the Holy Quran. He could prove a point in the Bible. He came out with a 5% lesson. So he gave us everything that we needed to actually insulate us and just kept us on 10. So spiritually, we were very grounded. Balanced, our minister who, when I came in, we used to call him a captain minister because what? He was very disciplined and accountable. Didn't make no excuses. He didn't give no excuses, and he sure didn't make no excuses. So coming up on the strong leadership, Brother Robert Five, later on, Brother Forrest, Brother Henrik, and just all those strong lieutenants. Brother Joshua, we was also growing with NOI security. So going into the projects, we hear about the different things that took place in Washington, D.C., but every city have its own story. In terms
yes, sir.
Used to work at the site out in Coney Island. So, you are now confronted with different issues and challenges. And it seems like getting a 911 call was irregular. So you was always moving to deal with an issue, whether it was on a security site, or whether it was the believers. And Brother Joshua, we had a group of lieutenants and men in Brooklyn was so fearless that we weren't not the negotiation type.
Yes, sir.
And Brother Josh, we put work in. So as a young man coming into a brotherhood, that you see men moving at a certain frequency, a certain energy, and a certain spirit, you literally just kind of felt that you were invincible. So
yes, sir.
And fear was not a situation that you kind of like, how are we gonna handle this situation? But when you had strong men who literally set the tone and the tempo, I thank Allah much. I have not been put in a situation that it was to the point that I was like, I don't know how we gonna get out of this situation. But as we progress,
yes,
I would like to share two experiences, maybe a little bit later in the broadcast, to just share with you, some new unique experience that I've encountered.
Yes, sir. And thank you very much, Brother Captain, and thank you all for watching. You can do it now, sir.
Okay. This I'm gonna fast forward from, there's two sojourn, starting in Brooklyn in 1994 and then being installed as the FOI captain in New York City in 2000. It was somewhat earlier in my tenure as a captain. keep in mind now, Brother Joshua and listening audience, when Brother Regional Captain Majid got relieved, he immediately went back to New Jersey. I didn't afforded a transitional period to know the politics, the nuances, the protocol, who's the contact person in Chicago. So when I got sworn in, it was almost spontaneous, and I didn't get no formal training. Yes, I'm serving in a satellite mosque as a first lieutenant, but now you're talking about now coming uptown. You're talking about now you're walking in the footstep of the great Yusuf Shah. May Allah be pleased with him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're talking about now Captain
Yes,
Dennis. You're talking about
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Captain Anthony Five. Most people sometimes write brother out of the history. He served for a few, not for a long time, but he served in the position. Coming behind Brother Captain Anthony Five was Brother Aziz, and Brother Majid came back.
Sir.
Could you imagine? I'm not known, Brother Joshua. I'm pretty much one of those quiet individual. Now coming into the city was like, oh my God, I mean, a lot of expectation, but we had, number one, I had Brother Hafeez, who had served in the city in interim level, so he understand the politics, the landscape, and I'm going to follow his lead. And plus, we had a solid, lieutenant staff. But sufficely, early in my tenure, Brother Joshua, I received a call from Brother Forrest, stated that one of our sister was accosted, and she was taken to the precinct, and immediately in the Bronx. So I met Brother Forrest, got there first, and I showed up, and Brother Forrest was speaking to the desk sergeant. Caucasian guy, was very arrogant. Was almost, our sister was locked in the cell in the back, and we just wanted to make sure that she was okay. So Brother, he's non-negotiable. He's literally not, almost like we're not there. So, anybody know Brother Forrest, man? Brother Forrest is just one of them brothers that's non-compromising. He's fearless. He don't see nothing but, his love for the believers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where we at?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother Forrest say, Brother Cap, I need for you to start calling the lieutenants and start getting some men down here. And, we start calling, start sending out text messages. Few brothers showed up. Brother Forrest, in earshot, I guess he stepped away from the desk, but he wanted the desk sergeant to hear the instruction that he was giving. It was like, listen, we're going to get some men down here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Obviously, as the brothers, they start showing up, somebody else from the back came out and kind of intercede and, asked what was the situation. We explained that one of our sister believer member from our mosque was arrested. Sister was in a fight, and, she was arrested. We didn't have all the facts, but we just wanted to make sure that she was okay. So eventually they asked us to go in the back in the cell where she was being held. And we saw, she had blood on her shirt. So we don't know whether the blood was from she being violated by the police or whether it was from the fight. Brother Forrest took it, he was on 10. Now, he's on 1,000 now. I mean, when he saw that, he don't know it was, if she was violated,
yes, sir,
or whether, it was from the fight. He was like, man, we got to get our sister to her. Our sister need medical attention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I said to say, they called the ambulance and transport our sister to the hospital, and where she was treated on a release. Brother Joshua, I sat back after I walked out of the precinct, and there's just certain things that when you look at Malcolm X, the movie, and
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You would never conceive that you would actually be part of a tradition.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Really live certain aspect of those things, and to see Black men being disciplined, walk into a precinct.
Yes, sir.
One of our citizens was able to almost non-negotiable that, listen, no, absolutely, we're not leaving. Went into the back, and sister was released from the hospital. I said, all praises due to Allah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when you say fearlessness, these were the type of things that I've experienced that literally just show the invincibility to a certain degree of the FOI. I want to share one more situation with you and your listening audience. While I was serving as a FOI captain over the city, I got a call from Brother Sherwood then, a student, first lieutenant from out of Brooklyn, man, my brother who I love tremendously, now Brother Salim, Abdul Salim, got a call. He was serving over Brooklyn. It was the Holiday of Atonement, and we weren't traveling. We was having the Holiday of Atonement in our city. And we had multiple venues that we were packing, so we were selling tickets. So Brother Anthony Seven, one of the soldiers under Brother Salim charge, was in East New York moving his tickets. It was in the wintertime. He was in a location where they were notorious for selling drugs. So he was in a fast food restaurant with a parking lot. So he was inside the restaurant, step outside, went inside his coat pocket, pull out a ticket, and made a transaction with a loss fund. There was 2 police actually staking out the location and didn't know what was the transaction about, whether he sold drugs or what it was. But once they approached him, brother was in Class A dress with his bow tie. And he pulled out a ticket, which had the minister picture, and said, listen, this is what I was doing. They were still aggressive. They were, that's a sector of our community that's just notorious for being very abusive, heavy-handed with our people. So they was very disrespectful to our brother. They didn't put their hands on him, but just after he, I could see if he was in Class C dress, then they may have approached him. But again, he showed them the ticket. So Brother Slim was like, Cap, we need to go to the precinct and, speak to the commander.
Yes, sir.
Brother Joshua, impromptu, we spoke about it. We went to the precinct. And the commander was not at the precinct. As a matter of fact, we learned later that he was on vacation. But again, went up to the desk sergeant and, trying to let them know why we're here. Well, the commander is not here. He's out. Gonna have to come back. Brother Salim, you know anything about brothers. Brother Salim, also Brother Joshua, he was Brother Forrest squad leader when we was in 7C. So he have that same spirit, attitude, and demeanor of like, man, listen, Cap, we ain't going nowhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So suffice it to say, Brooklyn just built a little differently. hey, guys. There's no negotiation. Diplomats, forget about it.
Forget about it.
Okay. Man, who literally are just fearless. So we had a team with us, and suffice it to say, we wasn't going nowhere. The assistant to the commander was off shift. It was a black sister. She came from home and came to the precinct. She took us upstairs and we asked most of the soldiers to stay downstairs. Myself, Brother Salim, and maybe 1 or 2 other brothers went upstairs in the back. We're gonna sit down and now let her know, while we was at the precinct to meet with the commander.
Yes, sir.
Posted one FOI at the door, Brother Joshua, while we were on the inside meeting. I noticed the assistant, the officer, her phone kept ringing. Eventually, she picked the phone up, and Brother Joshua, there was a police officer on the outside. Remember, the office we meeting had multiple rooms. It wasn't just for one person. So
yes, sir.
The FOI outside the door, Brother Joshua, in the precinct, was stopping a person from coming in his own office. Was like, listen, you're not coming in here. So the police officer, Brother Josh, had to call inside and said, no, is it okay? And, we told the brother, no, it's all right. So we sat in a meeting and we shared with her our situation. She saw the tenseness of the brothers who was downstairs. Everybody, post up was disciplined. And she got the commander on the phone. He's on vacation. And he heard about our situation. He said, Brother Muhammad, when I come back from vacation, we're gonna sit down and have a conversation. We had a good meeting. We felt that, our concern was heard, and it was a win for Muhammad. We came out the office now, Brother Joshua. Keep in mind, myself, Brother Salim, is upstairs meeting with the officer. Other brothers is still making phone calls, so you'll have other brothers still showing up at the precinct. They haven't been thoroughly briefed in terms of, what we doing. All they know is that the captain and the first lieutenant is upstairs. As I came out the door, Brother Josh, I looked down and I saw one particular brother, Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm is like one of them brothers that he stays on 10, Brother Josh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at Brother Malcolm, it's like foaming at the mouth. He's going back and forth. I don't even know if the FOI understood the magnitude. We are in a police precinct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's on one side. The FOI post up in the precinct on the other side, looking like they're about to kill anything that move wrong, that say anything that's out of line. Brother Salim said, like, Cap, I got to get downstairs and tell the brothers to stand down. It ain't that type of situation. So we came downstairs and we told the brothers, listen, man, no, relax. We good. We left the precinct, Brother Joshua went back to a disclosed location, did a debrief with the men, thanked them, and we dismissed. It may have been a week later, the captain, the commander, he came back from vacation, myself and Brother Salim, maybe one or two brothers were brought with us. We went and met with him in his office. And, we shared with him the situation that transpired, and the proposition that we presented to him. We wanted a formal apology from those officers in how they treated our brother. Brother Joshua, I have to be honest. In those meetings, I'm literally the tactician. I'm sitting back. I'm, pretty much quiet, not saying too much. Brother Salim leaning on. He putting it on real thick. I'm telling you. He's literally just drilling. The captain said, all right, hold on for a minute. I'm tasked every day. And I respected him for that. He said, man, I have one of the most challenging precincts in the city.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Motivate these officers every shift, send them out into a community to do patrol. And even if they're a little heavy-handed or extend the authority a little bit more, I have to make sure that I save face as a commander. So he said, this is what I could do. I will make a formal apology to your brother, and I will, reprimand verbally. I will deal with my team. And, the meeting kind of went in another direction in terms of now kind of just took some of the, oxygen out of the room. We kind of sit back for a minute. Brother Salim now go, kind of switch hats for a minute.
Yes,
talk about how was your vacation, how's your family. Now we was like, we have known each other for a long time.
Yes, sir.
So, brother, the captain turned around and said, Brother Salim had utilized the terminology how intimidating the officers were in the approach. He said, listen, you talking about intimidation. I was posted at a commander. I was a commander in Harlem in the late 80s, early 90s. And I saw some of your brothers. They was in their top hats, trench, dark suit. I was coming in one direction, and there was about 4 or 5 of them coming down the street in the opposite direction. He said, intimidating. He said, man, you all guys is intimidated, not us. It was just a light moment. He said, man, I respect the Muslims. I respect the work that you all do. And, I don't think I never got in communication with him again, but we shook his hand. We left the precinct, and it was a win for Muhammad. Thank Allah much.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful.
Yes,
and thank you very much, Brother Captain, for holding it down. I can only imagine the pressure and the stress that you were under, and I'm glad that you all were able to be strong and represent very well. Thank you all for your comments. Brother Captain, I have a few more questions, but I want to make sure that I get to the sponsors of this episode who for making it successful. My brother Rashad and Jamal, Street Premiere Video Production, Video Editing. I thank you all very much for your work. They have a 4K drone. They edit film, TV, commercial, anything with editing. Shout out to my brother Rashad and his business partner Jamal for doing such. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me, coloring book. It is on Amazon, and children's book. Thank you all very much for your support. My second book, which is called Cleopatra, it is a coloring book. It is on Amazon. Thank you all very much for getting that. Also, my sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy LLC on Instagram. She teaches children how to do ballet and all of that virtually, like how we're doing with Zoom. Supreme Men's Clothing. My brother in St. Louis. He always comes through every month. He will keep you dressed fresh. 10835 West Florissant Avenue, 314-528-5555. Thank you very much. If you all want to get some good clothes, make sure y'all pull up in St. Louis. BMW Entertainment, Brother Ronald in Phoenix. They do event planning and they travel all over the country to put on all type of events. Thank you very much, Brother Ronald. Sister Shelly Muhammad, Las Vegas, designer of composure.com, Colleagues Boutique. Sister Tia Vinos, I thank you very much, ma'am. She has Raising Black Millionaire flashcards. These flashcards teach young children economic empowerment and development. I thank you all very much. Brother Aaron in Chicago, Akira's Cafe, 773-860-1696. He will ship coffee anywhere you need. Thank you very much, Brother Aaron. HollyTexture.com, natural hair products, coloring, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Supreme Team Insurance, Brother Todd X. McGraw. Please go and support our brother, 803-521-2787. That man does an amazing job with insurance. Saladin Porter, David Adams. I'll make sure, ppcnaturesv.com, Black-owned HIV and HSV immunotherapy. Thank you, Brother Eric out in Phoenix. Supreme Express, the X Factor in transportation and logistics in Houston, Texas. Brother Chantel X, he has a trucking company specializing in refrigeration and freight. And last but not least, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, my father's book, AbdulSharif.com. Thank you all very much. If you all have a business and you want me to promote it, please let me know. The People's Podcast on Cash App. Sister Jadea is still championing you very much, Brother Captain. She says, beautiful war stories. Sister A.S. Still love it. Thank you very much for your support. Brother Victor is referring to you as his captain. Beautiful. Thank you all. And Brother Durst, thank you for showing love out of Houston. I'm going to be reaching out to you very soon, sir, with it inshallah tomorrow, so I can hear your testimony as well. Back to you, Brother Captain. How was it leading up to the Million Man March, and how did that personally impact you?
Man, I listened to different, reviews or recap. It's very difficult to start at the apex.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Which was October 16th, 1995. I would have to go back to the men's only meeting from January 1994 up all the way until 1995, October 16th.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The tireless work that was done by so many. Our minister, crisscrossed this country almost 7 days a week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Work that we did, countless brothers. It seems like we stayed on the road, Brother Joshua. We was in every city from the East Coast to the Mid-Atlantic.
Yes, sir.
I vividly remember we was on a detail, Brother Joshua. We started in Philadelphia on a Friday night. The minister spoke in Philly, and subsequently the last stop was on a Sunday in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Brother Forrest took a delegation from Brooklyn. I was included. I was the driver. We got on the road. We didn't plan to stay on the road. We were just going to Philly on the first stop. But after the minister speak, Brother Josh, back then we were just so fired up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the love that was built just soldiering and, just trying to make sure that we did everything possible to make sure that in our city, the Million Man March was going to be a success. And the minister spreading the word, all throughout the country. We got on the road, Brother Josh. I can't recall how many brothers, but again, we didn't have a lot of resources. It wasn't like today, you pull into a city and, you have a hotel room. We slept in the vehicles, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We blew a tire somewhere between DC and Richmond. Brother Josh, we had to pull over and get the vehicle fixed. In order for us to sustain ourselves, Brother Joshua, we sold back edition of the Final Call newspaper.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was able to just start soldiering, get a little money just to, get enough for food, for gas. We fix our tire. When we got to Richmond, Brother Joshua, the minister, we got to the venue. It was an empty parking lot because the challenges that we faced going to Virginia, it was over. Brother Forrest was able to make a call. He may have called your father or somebody on the team, and we went to the hotel. They thanked us for traveling, and we got back on the road. But leading up to the Million Man March, the work that we did in Brooklyn with our student minister, the LOC, I thank Allah for two brothers outside of our community, Bob Law, Reverend Dylan, who was a reverend out of Brooklyn. We used his location, which was Christian Times on Atlantic Avenue. So that was the headquarters for the LOC. Seems like Brother Hafeez was speaking 7 days a week, Brother Josh. when you was not working your city, you was literally on the road, securing a venue or a detail. The Chicago published a special edition. That was the first paper that was sold for $2. Brother Josh, I don't know how many, whether it was 30 or 40 or 50,000 that came in the city. That the dollar off that special edition was what helped funded the march. I may have a few bundles still sitting somewhere, Brother Joshua. We put work in. There was a small delegation who left that weekend, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was asked to stay back to hold down the mosque and, to keep doing the work that we had to do in terms of organizing or mobilizing. So we took a small delegation. So we left early Sunday morning. No, late Sunday night. We got into DC, it was about 3 a.m. We reported straight to the post. Just watching the sunrise. It's like, you see the buildup. At first, there was nobody out there. You see the buildup, and you start hearing the pounding of the drums.
Yes, sir.
Drum, it's kind of that rhythmic, chant. You start feeling the energy, the flow. It was a little chilly. The breeze came off. The Adhan was called, vividly recall, and you just see, man, just start coming. But, the work that most of us put in when we are on the first line, I won't say the front line, Brother Joshua, the first line.
Yes, sir.
Most major event in our nation, a person on the outside can appreciate the historic aspect of it. Those that's doing the work, you go from one event to the next event, you're just trying to breathe or get a little rest. So I went to DC with an empty tank of gas. I'm talking about the work that we was putting, full with the spirit. Got to DC early in the morning, you put work in. So by the time, you finish, you're just trying to breathe again before you get to the next detail or the next task. So my unique experience in a lot of the historic event like the Million Man March was putting work in, almost from the inside, not looking at the magnitude of what's taking place. You was able to days later kind of look back and was like, man, this is what I was a part of. But I thank Allah much for that experience.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you all for watching. Speaking of Final Call, sir, I spoke with my father about 2 days ago, and he was telling me about how one city in the 90s, like during that time, how one city was doing 100,000 Final Call newspapers. And it made me think about the brothers on, my squad and stuff. I was like, damn, man, we don't you know what I'm saying? Just how much more work we have to do. How were you all able to sell so many Final Calls back then, as opposed to we got social media now? It doesn't seem like, it seems harder back then, but y'all sold more back then, as opposed to us now not selling 100,000 Final Calls. Like, what was it about you all's tactics in New York or in Brooklyn that was able to make y'all sell so many Final Call newspapers?
If you think about it, Brother Josh, we have technology, we have more training, we are more astute, we are more knowledgeable today. When I came in, Brother Josh, I never saw a thing in my life. I was an introvert. So the night I recited and got pinned, immediately after FOI class, I had to go and see the Final Call captain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I found, which was Brother Henry at the time. Thank Allah much for him. He kind of shared with me as a new fruit what was the significance of the Final Call, your duties and responsibility. I had to go to make a beeline, Brother Josh, go to the ATM and get $70 because you had to invest the first $70 into the Final Call.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
the tradition and the culture then, everybody had to sell 100 papers. If you was a college student, the minimum you will do was 50. I don't know what it was like, Brother Joshua, throughout the nation, but I know in Brooklyn, that was a tradition. So that same night I recited, I invested $70 to get my first bundle, and you had to go to work. So again, as I said, limited in terms of now articulation. I'd never sold anything before, was an introvert. And, but you were brought into a system or a culture where there was nothing less. So you couldn't even think about 25 papers. 25 papers, what you gonna do with those? Were you making a donation? So the thing about it, Brother Joshua, your father had a way in terms of every Monday night, there was a conference call before we closed out FOI class. And, it was all about the Final Call newspaper. The Final Call newspaper was literally, you couldn't separate that from being a FOI. And under our minister, Brother Kevin, then Brother Abdul Hafeez, he led by example. So the motivation and the spirit and what we had to do. And once you get into the post on position of a lieutenant, I don't know who coined this phrase, Brother Joshua, but they said, if you have one bundle, it creates an imbalance. So if you're in leadership, you have to carry two bundles. It's a balance. So you got one bundle on this side, you have another one on this side. So as a lieutenant, you're doing two bundles while the rank and file is doing a bundle. I thank Allah much for your father, because the work that we were doing in Brooklyn 7C, he saw the work we was doing in the papers. And it wasn't popular because the sum total of the paper order represents 7C and number 7. And we was always either maybe 1, 2, 3. I mean, Chicago was most likely number 1. We was probably number 2, 3, or 4. And he recognized the work that our student minister and we were doing in Brooklyn. So in the top 10, there was a page in the Final Call newspaper that would show the top 10 mosques in the Final Call. So you used to see number 7, and you saw Brooklyn somewhere at the bottom, maybe number 7 or number 8. Brother Hafeez was so inspiring. He would literally had in our mind to not look at the only 3 mosques that we weren't constantly looking at what they was doing was Chicago, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. Everybody else, it was open season. We felt like, hey, I'm being real, Brother Josh, we felt we could compete with everybody outside of those big cities. I'm talking about as a satellite mosque.
Yes, sir.
So, we clock in 7,500 papers on a weekly basis, maybe even got up to 10, when we was dealing with some major increase. But, it was a spirit. It was the spirit, Brother Josh. It wasn't a burden. We love soldiering for Muhammad. It was the culture. We love soldiering, Brother Josh. It was 7 days a week. It wasn't no break in between. You was at your FOI class on a Monday night. Tuesday night, you were soldiering unless you're having a squad meeting. Wednesday, as I said, Wednesday in Brooklyn was like Sunday. You're not missing Wednesday because what? Brother Hafeez was building a mosque, so there was no excusing you. Then Thursday, we were selling our papers. Friday, we was at study group. Saturday, we soldier, Brother Josh, sometimes from 8 a.m. to like 12 midnight. We had shifts. So that was the type of work that we put in, Brother Josh. And then now you come back Sunday, early in the morning. If you had a leftover, you had to soldier before mosque meeting because it was at 2 o'clock. And you had to soldier after mosque meeting. So that was the type of work. That was the type of environment and culture that I came in. So I didn't know anything else, Brother Josh. So the paper is very relevant to, fiduciarily, what it means in terms of our revenue for our nation, but also getting out to our people. So Allah says in the Holy Quran, He desires ease for the believers. So our student supreme captain is so beloved, and his strategic move was not just to stock papers, but to literally move the papers and create a balance. But I would say to the young brothers, man, with the path training and all the different tools we've been given, the average person could move a bundle, with very little ease in no time. So we have it's just a desire. Well, the desire feeds the will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How much?
Praise be to Allah. And thank you very much, Brother Captain, but you motivated me. I hope all the brothers who watching, we got work to do. We got work to do. Brother Amir says big facts. Final call. Sister Teresa says, wow, soldiering, praise be to Allah. Sister Sierra said, all praise be to Allah for the FOI. And Brother Victor P says, Brooklyn strong, praise be to Allah. Okay, my next question for you, Brother Captain, is from our observation of outside looking at people who weren't around Brooklyn and New York, we see Minister Abdul Hafeez Muhammad. We saw him in many ways as serious, stern about the work. Do you have any stories of him where he was more relaxed or making jokes or being more funny on the other side when he was off the roster?
Man, Brother Josh, our minister was a prankster. When you get introduced to him from a distance, he's always so focused on the work. As I said, when there's two phases of Brother Hafeez. Brother Hafeez I met in 1994 in Brooklyn, and the person who was mature and evolved with when we became laborers over the city in 2000. In Brooklyn, he was just a very focused individual. He was a man determined to open a mosque, very competitive. So, you saw him constantly working, focused, engaging, but, he was a brother. We saw him as our ministers. Most of us, he was our minister. He married most of the believers who came in the mosque at that time. He named our children. He named my son Kareem and my daughter Camilla. If there's four things I'll tell you that was a tradition in Brooklyn with Brother Hafeez. Either he's gonna marry you, he's gonna name your children, or he's gonna do the funeral service for a family or a loved one and consultation. That was just notorious that he was part of our family, our families inside the mosque and our families outside the mosque. But he was a brother. We'll be drilling our FOI class, Brother Josh, and Brother Hafeez would just fall in and just start doing faces, the DI would call left, he would go right. And he, I vividly, we stayed, when we travel, to Chicago a lot, we used to stay in the same room. And there was one night, I called my wife. on the phone, was having a late conversation. And brother, my brother was in the back, as a female voice, acting, it was like a sister in the room. And I'm like, brother minister, stop. My wife was like, who's in the room with you? And you kept going for a minute, brother Joshua. And I don't know if my wife was like thinking it was funny. It was like another woman in the room. And then
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Laughing, man, took the phone, spoke to my wife, gave her the greetings, man. But that was our brother. He had a sense of humor that was out of this world. He was a brother.
Praise be.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful, beautiful. I didn't know he named your children, and that's real brotherhood, and that's powerful. And thank you all for your comments. Okay, so the Jadea speaking. They praise be to Allah. Keep teaching, sir. Excellent job. Excellent reflection. My next question is for you, sir. What do you do for fun, brother Cap?
Man, brother Joshua, I'm a born guy, man. In New York City, it's like 20. I have to, shelter in place have really allowed me to be stationary for a minute because I've never worked for the mosque per se. I've labored in a position, but I've always held a job. So I'm working a full-time job along with being the captain over the city. So, my average night, I'm getting in maybe 10, 11 o'clock. So I thank Allah much for my wife and my children who at times, I'm home, but I'm on the phone. I'm dealing with an issue with the labor. I'm engaging. I didn't do a lot of the traditional things with my son, with my daughter. She really, really held the base down. But
yes, sir.
Fun for me, brother Josh, is after unwinding at about 11, 12 o'clock, my wife would always make sure that dinner is available, and she wouldn't eat. Just waiting for me to get in, finish what I'm doing, make sure I'm off the phone. I was like, you ready now? And then we'll just sit back, brother Josh, and just have dinner, watch a movie. She's a great lover of tennis. We'll watch maybe tennis if it's that season, a little basketball. But, that's fun for me, brother Josh. Just being with the family. Thank Allah much.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And I know it must be rough, but Captain, if you're a basketball fan and you're, the Knicks, so hopefully you root for LeBron or you root for somebody who win it.
One of the good things about it, brother Josh, I got a job working at Madison Square Garden for about 8 months, as an event security supervisor. And, just to watch our beloved Knicks, man. To see them and, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And, the thing about it, I can't even say, brother Josh, there's any hope in the future because what? They got rid of Carmelo. They have they have the resources, but, we have a owner which, I heard a lot about, but, to work for the organization, he's definitely not liked by the fans.
Yes, sir.
We have some tremendous fans who filled out the arena every day, but, just won't bring the quality players, man, to make the Knicks a competitive team. But, hey.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sister Veronica says, Brother Richard is a captain with a heart. Sister Sierra says, thank you, Brother Captain, for your sacrifice. Sister Jadea, please don't try to defend the Knicks right there. Okay, my next question is, what has been your greatest trial in your tenure in the nation, Brother Captain, and how have you overcome it?
Oh, man. We went through a difficult stretch. I was still the student first lieutenant in Brooklyn. The minister installed Reverend Chavis, Brother Dr. Ben, as we call him, Brother Regional Captain Aziz, formerly Normal 3X Butler.
Yes, sir.
I came in, I think that was about 97. And it was different, Brother Josh. We was used to a certain diet, a certain language, a certain training and indoctrination. And here it is now, you have a reverend minister from, the tradition of the church, and you also have a person serving in the captain. Yes, he was a lieutenant prior to 1975, was incarcerated for about 23 to 24 years, was more so, could be perceived like adapting in the transitional phase after 75 to more so the Orthodox style of Islam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, at first, when they were first installed, believers came out because you know how we do, Brother Josh, it's new, it's different. So everybody's out. Mosque is packed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm familiar.
FOI class, we may have 200 men. That night, when brother was put in a position, but the language started to change. Let me say this, as all fairness, we have to give balance. Brother was very articulate. I learned much from him. Very disciplined. He gave me insight into the lessons and, the teachings. But, language came across the rostrum at times was, Minister Farrakhan is your teacher, he's my brother. I knew to a certain degree, being maybe a little bit more mature, what was being inferred, but you're dealing with the babies. This is our father. This is our spiritual father.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Life. So anything coming across the rostrum that could be deemed as disrespectful, we are not the type of people that's going to create a problem inside, in terms of now discourse. So, I start seeing a weaning away of attendance. I came to one, we averaging, we have a Unity FOI class. Everybody from Brooklyn comes to Harlem on a Monday night. We have our Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in Brooklyn. So the only time we interact with the FOI throughout the city is on a Monday night. At that time, we could be averaging anywhere between 40 to 50 FOI. On a bad night, Brother Josh, coming to FOI class. I vividly recall one FOI class. I was the only FOI from Brooklyn 7C that was at class. And the numbers were very thin. And, brother was like, okay, where's your soldiers at? It was a struggle being loyal to the post on position, even there was some differ in the leadership style and the language, and to now leave 7, going back to Brooklyn to motivate the base in terms of now, no, we have a duty and responsibility.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The spirit, we hit a speed bump. The spirit, the energy, it was not the same. It was very trying for myself, but there's a saying, when there's darkness, stand still. Doesn't mean
sir.
And don't do anything. Don't be emotional. Just don't walk away because what? I gave an oath, I have an allegiance, and I have a commitment to the FOI. So I stuck through those times when I didn't see the better days coming. But eventually, there was a transition. And, I start seeing, the FOI and the spirit and the momentum that we once had. And I thank Allah much, but, that was some trying days, Brother Josh.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And what has been your greatest joy in your tenure in the Nation of Islam, sir?
Man, Brother Josh, I'm so thankful that Allah would even consider me. When I reflected back, over 10,000 men in that 369 armory in that January 1994. I've walked past most of those men over the years. A few came out of the manhood training. I think I could say on maybe one hand, Brother Josh, out of those 10,000 men, if we have 5 who actually came on the inside, is still soldiering and have make that transition to help the Christ and the Jesus do this mighty work. And,
yes, sir.
Thank Allah that as I was sitting in that audience looking at the drill competition, looking at the martial arts demonstration, and looking at Brother Minister Conrad introduce the minister, and just my evolution that Allah would saw fit, that I would walk in that tradition to serve in this mighty seat. So that's been a tremendous joy. It's almost like a fairy tale, some days when you sit and you reflect, but I thank Allah much.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And thank you all for watching. And once again, Brother Captain, even you explaining the hours that you put in, like through days and weeks of I have to thank your wife and your children again, because Lord have mercy knows we can relate to the sacrifice of sacrificing our parents and our family to do this work. So we thank them. What advice would you give to future husbands, sir?
Balance, Brother Josh. When I joined the mosque, it was almost every day was the last day. And we work as such. Yes, it's good to work with a sense of urgency, because we are a people who are prone to procrastinate and do things last minute, and sometimes don't do it at all. But it's to create balance, understanding that the minister shared with us that you're building yourself, your family, and then your nation, because everything was first towards our nation, and secondary, some of us, our families are second thought. And, with our strong family, we really don't have a nation. So I'm learning now to have a better balance of understanding that your family component is a part of your nation and part of your duties and requirements. So if I would say to any young believers, brothers coming up, yes, let's build our nation, but, let's create that balance, to equally sure that equal support and support to your family, because what becomes the casualty in us building our nation as we look back in our immaturity was our families. When it grieves me much, Brother Josh, when I travel throughout the city and run into believers who serve with me, who put work in, some who are currently active and some who are inactive, to see their children, strung out on weed, almost you couldn't even tell outside of just having a Muslim name. You don't see the difference between them being a parents of a child of a Muslim or a lost found. And I'm like, and I could imagine how those believers who serve, and when you serve, you want your children to follow into your footsteps, because you have given your life for something that's bigger than all of us.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing that I think brings joy to a parent in all the brothers who I have blessed to pin and introduce into the FOI. Some of those memorable moments was when I was able to pin a junior FOI, making the transition from junior FOI to now being part of this mighty FOI, and his father is standing off to the side, seeing that his son is now walking into that same tradition and legacy as him. And now a few years later, that person may go through their own challenges and now fall back out. So I would just say to the young ones that's in the nation, just, practice balance and knowing that you have to pace yourself.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And thank you for that great advice. Also, you said you have a son. I would hope that myself and my brothers could, get to know your son in the future, because I spoke with the brother Robert, that was my first time seeing him, was in an interview, and he spoke of Min Hafeez having children. I don't know his children, and so many of us who are the children of the next generation who don't know each other. So I'm going to make it an effort to make sure that Savior's Day, that we reach out to all of the children in the next generation, who people were born in it, to make sure that we stay connected as well, like our parents did. Praise be to Allah. What advice would you give to future fathers?
Prepare yourself. Physical attraction, as the minister have taught us, it's going to be the first attraction.
Yes, sir.
In my 25 years, Brother Josh, being married, when I joined the nation, she was my girlfriend. If I already knew before he even encountering the nation and the moral discipline on what was expected for FOI. Once I came in, my student lieutenant told me, brother, you have 6 months to make a decision. I knew this is what I wanted, and I literally didn't sit, plan. I was like, listen, the time clock is ticking. Let's rush and get married. But one of my success in my marriage, Brother Joshua, to yourself and the listening audience, is compatibility. Love is something that comes and goes. You could be attracted to a person today, and tomorrow, you all are a staunch enemy. Compatibility, I think, is one of the key components to a lasting relationship. What do I mean compatibility? My temperament, my demeanor fits my wife so much that if I was married to anybody else based on my love commitment for the mosque, it would have been almost competing. She would have been competing with not understanding, like, okay, why are you doing this? It seems like I'm doing more for the believers than I'm doing for my own family. But based on, we are just so compatible. She's very understanding, very supportive. And a lot of times, things that could go south literally just level up because we are compatible. So I think that in the courtship process, natural attraction is the first attraction, but if it's not a mixture, that person now balance your personality with her personality, vice versa, then you should consider moving on from that courtship process, which is just an introductory level. It doesn't mean that once you get into a courtship, you are obligated to marry that person, just to get to know that individual. But look for compatibility, a person who could fit your personality.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you. And people, Brother Norman Muhammad said, that's great. Brother Amir, yes, sir, absolutely, we're going to do that. Sister Jadea says, thank you for the reminder. Brother Captain, will you ever write a book about your life and your journey?
I've never thought, I love writing. I express myself more so while putting my thoughts and my ideas on papers. It's naturally flow. As you know, Brother Josh, this is probably the most I've expressed myself. It's funny, Brother Josh, I served in New York City for many years, and I would travel throughout the nation, and people would still equate, it was like, Captain, who's Captain of New York City? Captain Dennis? It's all right. I thank Allah much because I was not the type of individual who felt I needed to overcompensate. I learned much from Captain Dennis. I pulled from his leadership style. I learned much from Captain Aziz. I pulled from his leadership style. I pull a lot from Brother Majid, who now serve. He's a mentor, a very close friend. I pull from his leadership style. So I utilize other talents to support and complement my leadership style to be successful versus not having that personality or overtone that I have to compensate for this large personality versus now, it's like having the Scottie Pippen and the Grant and everybody is surrounding your team, so you don't have to score 63 points and still lose. So I thank Allah much that my uniqueness Allah have sent. I just want to take time out just for a few seconds, Brother Josh, to thank a few brothers who because I've lasted this long in the position based on good guidance. When I was installed in 2000 in number 7, it was a new post. Working in Brooklyn is one thing. Being over the city is cosmopolitan. Number 7 is comprised of Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Long Island, Westchester County, Inglewood, New Jersey. So the diversity and uniqueness of number 7, you have believers who serve with Minister Malcolm, who served with the minister. I was blessed to serve brothers under my charge who was a lieutenant under the great Yusuf Shah. So now you coming into that position, what experience or insight or knowledge I can offer to these men who literally see me as a grandson? You know, and here it is now, I'm the captain supposed to be leading them. But, you know, I want to thank Allah for Brother Munir, Brother Tariq's father, Inglewood, New Jersey.
Okay.
With Brother Josh to set up a weekly meeting with myself, with Brother Claude Sharif, may Allah be pleased with him, Brother Mahmoud Ramza, the nation's jeweler, who may Allah be pleased with him, he transitioned, and Brother Muhammad, Brother Diogenes, who opened up the first Latino mosque in New York City under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So these men sat with me, Brother Josh, knowing the magnitude of the post, the position, and they were just so concerned with what I was going to bring to the equation. And I sat, listened to sound guidance, consultation, and they led me in the right direction. You know, we had an FOI class, Brother Josh, who 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, you're still in the building. You know, there were certain nights, FOI class, there was no sense going home. You just hang out in the building and go straight to work. But they were very sensitive towards, they deem at certain transitional phase in a city, the abuse or misuse of the men, and they wanted to ensure that the new captain coming in understand, in order to make this work and for you to be successful, there are just certain things that you have to be mindful, not abusing the men, time and otherwise. So they gave me wise consultation, Brother Joshua. So I was insulated. Allah sent these men around me. I weren't knowledgeable. Again, you know, most people looking like, you know, who this guy is, what is he gonna do, what is he gonna do? Equation, you know, he sure ain't no Captain Dennis. He sure ain't no Captain Majid. But I thank Allah much. The believers embrace me, and I pray Allah that, you know, as long as I continue to serve, I remain humble, you know, caring and kind. You know, you mentioned about a book. You know, it's probably something that all of us want to leave some level of legacy or the work that you have done for me to start in and out, because there's just so much, Brother Josh. This is probably the first time I'm expressing myself in this level. You know, I have shared things with you and your family and your listening audience that I've not even shared at a FOI class. So I thank Allah for you.
Thank you, sir.
This, you know, the platform and the opportunity. I want to thank Brother Jermaine. He was the first person who called me, like, Brother Cap, Brother Josh would like to interview. I say, interview me, brother. You know, I don't do no interviews, Brother Jermaine. But I said, yes, sir. I'll give him a call. I thank Allah much.
Thank Brother Jermaine, please, because if you didn't think I was going to hear about it, but I wanted to just share this brief story as well about you. Myself, this is 2013, you know, drill, how Savior's Days, I can remember the numbers based off of where we was drilling or holding post. And New York there was an event, and New York had the check post on that Saturday before the Sunday. Yes, and sir. It was a concert, and me and my drill team spending all our money, getting to Savior's Day, buying uniforms and doing all of this. We had to decide if we was going to spend our last bit of money on going to a concert, what we was going to eat. We was just down bad. We didn't have, our budgeting was off. And we waited outside. We waited outside of the concert to get in. So my nephew, Devontae, they are reaching out. They like, man, I said, bro, listen, if everybody got like $40, we got to make it back to Savior's Day. Make it back to Atlanta. So we can't pay for a concert. Even though we just drilled, we can't even pay to get into the concert. And we stayed outside in the lobby, and you were on post and you saw us, and you didn't embarrass us, but you was like, why y'all out here? And you said, oh, brothers, y'all can go in. Don't got to worry about that. You know, y'all just got finished drilling. And that meant so much to us because we were so broke. We were so bad, and we were so ashamed that we couldn't get into the drill competition because nobody would know that we couldn't even afford to get into the drill competition. We was just on stage. So I thank you for how you handled that, because other than that, we would have been outside, you know. So I thank you, Brother Captain, for always being kind when nobody saw it. Like, nobody knew that we didn't have no money, or all we had was our food money. So I thank you for that, Brother Captain, because that meant a lot to me and the brothers, because even though we all popped in the original, you know, gave you a salute, we didn't
Yes.
have any encounter with you until that. And I was like, oh, y'all know, hey, Captain Richard, y'all, he looked out. So I thank you very much, Brett Captain. I thank you for always being a kind-hearted person. And man, I love you, and I love the brothers that you work with, and the tradition of how you uphold that. So that means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family. What do you want your legacy?
Brother Josh, I really want to take a few minutes and talk about, brother, our student minister. I know I have touched on, phases a little.
Oh, yes, sir.
How much time we're working with?
I know, ain't no time limit. Ain't no time limit.
I want to take a few minutes to really thank the believers in New York. We lost our brother for this scourge, this virus. Being shelter in place, and we have not had an opportunity to be around each other outside of Zoom and phone calls, text messages. It hasn't fully set in yet with the believers. And a lot of us, we are grieving in our own way. And we have not been back in the building since, the loss. I want to thank Allah. I thank Allah much for his wife, Sister Lorraine, his children. We did a military piece for him, Brother Josh. It was not, we wanted to do something for our brother that we could leave a legacy for those coming, on a military sense. So our regional captain will put that piece together, and y'all have seen it on social media.
Yes,
but
sir.
One of the beauty that I know his family is going to be okay. We came back to the mosque after we went to the burial, and Brother Ishmael had them in Brother Hafeez's office and gave consultation to the family. And after they finished, they hadn't been to the mosque in some time. His two sons and his 3 daughters, and Allah blessed them with a grandchild. Which, I mean, he brought so much joy to the minister. Every day we spoke, or every time we spoke, either at the start of our conversation or the ending of our conversation, it will be something relative to his granddaughter. So we came after, we came back, they finished consultation with the minister. Brother Salim said, let's take the minister family on a tour of the building, because we opened back Muhammad University. We just opened up our Muhammad CAF, we just renovated our basement. And we took them through a tour, the classrooms, the CAF. We came back upstairs, and his son, brother, Amin, he went on the rostrum, man. And I mean, this was so hilarious, Brother Joshua. He approached the rostrum just like his dad, opened up in his salutation and start going in, man. And I mean, it was just such a light moment in lieu of them grieving, because we just put his body in the grave. And for them to come back to the mosque and just have that type of demonstration of reflection of their father, I didn't see anyone crying. I didn't see a sober look. They was like, high spirited. Sister Lorraine, his wife, is just a strong Black woman.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
yes, sir.
He handled this loss right throughout. Those who I've been around her, maybe twice or once, but those who have been interacting with her, just in that she just been a strong supporter and believer for herself and her family. So I pray Allah that his family and his children, they're gonna be well. They're gonna be well. But I want to take a few minutes just to reflect on the work. And I want to give young believers coming in to our nation, to build a nation, what it takes.
Yes, sir.
So take a mosque or an area from a study circle to a study group to charter a mosque to get 50 new believers.
Yes, sir.
When I came in, I was one of those who came into a culture of a person was just, I say he was possessed. I think he had just transitioned off his job. He was working a full-time job, and the minister asked him to now become a full-time minister over Brooklyn. And he stepped out on faith because what he had a growing family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he put his trust in the believers, knowing that he had a staff that was dedicated and committed to have his back, to make sure that his financial need and upkeep would be met. But his work ethics, Brother Josh, is par to none. When I said, we had a terminology we call Brother Hafeez nocturnal. It's animals who they operate at nights. A typical day in Brooklyn on a Sunday would start like this. Lieutenants meetings about 7 a.m. in the morning. Staff meeting with the sister staff, ministry, protocol, secretary. Brother Hafeez may start his meeting, that staff meeting, at about 10 o'clock. While we dismiss everybody else, brothers be outside soldiering, and he run his staff meeting, he utilized the same template and blueprint that he saw in Chicago. So he had a chief of staff, probably the only mosque that had a chief of staff for the Nation of Islam, because he was just that type of brother that whatever he saw of good nationally, it would be instituted in Brooklyn. So we had Brother Colin was our chief of staff, an attorney by discipline, and he fit that personality like a Brother Leonard. Strong negotiator, he makes sure that called the meeting to order and things was just regulated a certain way. So coming into that type of structure, every discipline had to come with a report of accountability and progress. And so, we go from transitioning, we're meeting at 2 p.m. So he going to get prepared, for, his lecture or whatever. He would have to isolate himself for a few minutes, man. But after he finished teaching, he would position himself by the door, would greet every first-time guest, the believers, and then transition back to his office. There was always meetings with the lost fund, meeting with the believers. And after sisters, they would cook, he may eat, or if we order from the outside. But the mosque, one thing you knew in Brooklyn, Brother Josh, when you check in, there was no checking out. There wasn't no this, Islam on a luxury basis that we have it today, meeting finish at 2 o'clock and you gone. Meeting finish at 4 o'clock. That's when we start operating our administrative duties. So you saw Brother Hafeez on the rostrum as a minister, firing minister, but now you see him off the rostrum. This is the piece that now make us successful. It's the administrative duties of running the business of the mosque, which he was very proficient in. So, after he finished all the meetings, our sisters out of the building, we had to give a FOI report. FOI report in terms of now Final Call newspaper. Where we at with the papers? Brother Hafeez never separated himself when we were in Brooklyn from the first lieutenant duties and responsibility to the papers was solely your responsibility. No, he was committed. So each squad had to make sure that they zero out. So, our lessons talk about rusty locks, 17 million keys for 17 rusty locks. And that everybody does not have the same key for the same lock, Brother Joshua. Right. So, this was one of the protocol we had in place. The squad leader would first call the private soldier. If you couldn't get him to either sustain his paper order or increase, then you'd have to pass it on to the lieutenant. The lieutenant would actually now get the brother on the phone and try to encourage and inspire for him to now get to where you need to be at. If that didn't work, then you pass it to the second lieutenant, you pass it to the first lieutenant, and know for surety that the minister had whatever he was doing, he heard, because the mosque was so small, we were just separated by a few, your cubicles, and he could hear what we doing. And I said, our brother minister, I got one coming for you, brother minister. We try everything we can. Now, we pass the phone to the minister. The minister would get the brother on the phone, Brother Josh. At no time that whether a brother, he wasn't inspired that particular week to place a paper order, or whether he was just complacent where he was at, he didn't want to increase. Know for surety that once you pass that phone to our minister, he would pass the phone back to you and was like, your brother lieutenant, go and get that money. Man,
Yes, sir.
so, that's how he worked with us. He would leave the mosque on an average 12, 1 o'clock, drop them off. The next day, one of the things working with brother as a first lieutenant in Brooklyn, you had to have a cadre of brothers with vehicles.
Yes, sir.
And security personnel, because he was always working at a speaking engagement and drop him off 2 a.m. in the morning. You had to get him back by 8 a.m., 7 a.m. So that was the type of work that our brother put in. He was just so focused. But the love that he instilled in the believers for the Savior, the Christ, and the minister,
Praise be to Allah.
he was crystal clear who we was looking at in our infancy stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, I would say, he was a Farrakhan man.
Allahu Akbar.
He made us loyal to our nation, the love and its competitive nature, whether it was the Savior's Day gift, number 2, poor treasury. Every week before we close out our mosque meeting, knowing that the secretary had to give a report because he had certain quotas that was mandated by number 7, that he just wasn't coming up short.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He just wasn't coming up short. But he was a brother, man, that his work ethics was just impeccable in terms of now building and grooming a nation. I saw him, our last interaction and the last few, right before we close out, we stopped coming to the mosque. We had a Tuesday night laborers meeting. Sister Captain was bringing in salad, Brother Joshua. So our laborers meeting was used to be in his office upstairs. It was like, man, Brother Majid was like, we have this cafeteria downstairs. Why not meet downstairs? So we met downstairs. Sister Captain had salad, grilled chicken, salmon, and
okay.
Those last 2 laborers meeting was maybe some of the best that we had, because it was just the environment. It was almost like a family sit down while we talk about the labor, but it was a nice family setting. Those are one of my 2 last memories of my brother, but he will be tremendously missed. The work that he did, his sacrifice, and what he means to New York City and the Eastern region. So I pray Allah bless the believers as we move into the next phase of New York City, not knowing what forthcoming, but we just need to commit ourselves and just stay focused and keep doing this mighty work.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And thank you, Brother Captain, and thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. Brother Jermaine came on late, Brother Captain. He said that y'all wouldn't leave until at least midnight. Sister Teresa Pearl says a Farrakhan man. Brother Alton says saying you're his captain. And Sister Teresa said a beautiful brother. Brother Captain, he meant a lot to the East Coast, of course, in New York. But every time Min Hafeez came to Atlanta, the spirit was high, very sincere. And, as a drill instructor, I love drill. So he always talked to me about drill and inspiring. So I pray that Allah comforts you all, his family. And I have nothing but positivity in positive interactions with him and you. So it's all good. May Allah continue to bless you all. I love you, Brother Captain. And, my father is in the ministry now, but I just grew up in the military. So I'm always going to have an affinity to the captains and the team security and all that kind of stuff. So every time I see you, Brother Captain, it inspires me to see the strength that you represent. So may Allah bless you and your family. And thank you all for watching.
Just want to say this before I go, beloved. In our nation, we have 5 major departments. And at times, young believers coming in either inspired to be a minister or captain, serving in one of those positions, protocol, or secretary. But, brother, your ministry, thank Allah that you have found a space or a vehicle in a nation on a forum that you could now serve your nation and the believers and the community in another way outside of what just traditionally being inside the mosque.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
this
Yes, sir.
platform, brother, is much needed. I've learned much over the past few weeks just listening to different interviews and expression, seeing brothers who I've known over a long time, but just to listen to their life and their sojourn and what Islam has done for them post and pre. You know, it's a blessing. So may Allah bless you and your family. Give your father my love and his greetings.
Yes,
You
I
know,
will, sir.
and continue success, brother, with your ministry. And may Allah bless you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, brother Captain. This is a huge honor that you would come on the People's Podcast. Thank you all for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.